I'm not going to come in. Well, good evening. Two things. First, I'm going to take my cell phone off. and secondly, I want to get a reservation for your next conference. Because if Chuck's going to tell us where the market's going, I really want to know that. It is great to be in Pensacola. I've been here several times before. You have a beautiful city. And you know, I think sometimes when we are in our own cities, we sometimes think of all that we don't have. But you have a lot. And I've been to your beaches before, and I have driven your downtown, and you have a great assets, tremendous assets, and a lot to be thankful for. Beautiful architecture. I wish we had some of the old buildings and architecture down in St. Pete, but I think we got started after you all did, so we don't have as many old buildings as you do, but you do. So you have a lot to be thankful for as your city, and it's an honor for me to be up here and to talk to you a little bit tonight. I know that there are a lot of issues going on in the city. There are a lot of issues going on in all cities right now, including in St. Pete. I've had 3 different protest groups in the last week, and I'm a popular mayor, you know. I sometimes wonder, what if I was an unpopular mayor, man? I'd have to move somewhere else. City building is an interesting job. I've had the honor of being mayor for almost 9 years. We have an odd term of office. We changed it now. So I'll finish my job on January 2nd of next year, and I'm term limited out, so I'm done. And we have an election going on right now. And all the great things you just heard about me in St. Pete, it's funny, the mayoral candidates aren't saying them right now. When people run for mayor, they generally don't say, everything's perfect, vote for me to be mayor now. But it doesn't work that way. But I've enjoyed it. I tell people getting reelected to mayor was the single greatest honor that's ever been given me in my life. And I've tried to treat it as an honor and a trust. And it's getting elected the first time is an honor, but they really don't know you when they elect you the first time. You have a campaign, but after 4.5 years of people seeing how you're going to react to the issues and challenges, when they re-elect you, that's a great honor. And I'm pleased to have served. Whatever I do the rest of my life, being mayor of St. Pete will always be the best job I ever had, and I'm thankful for it. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about that. I'm going to talk to you about being mayor. And I know you're talking about leadership. What I thought I would do is tell you what I think the job of mayor of St. Pete is. And I know you have a referendum coming, you got a lot of issues. So I'll first define what mayor of St. Pete is. We have a strong mayor form of government, which means the mayor is the top administrator for the city and the top political leader for the city. I do not sit on city council. We have 8 members of city council. I have veto right over ordinances and things as they come forward, and I administer. So if council passes something to build something, I don't want to build it, we don't build it. But on the other hand, if I want to build something and they don't pass it, we don't build it. So what I tell folks is nothing big happens unless a majority of the council want to do it and I want to do it. And that's kind of the way the strong mayor form of government works. And it's actually worked very well in St. Pete. We are in a tough financial situation like the rest of the country, but we have gone through a renaissance unprecedented in our history in St. Pete. And if you've not been there lately, come down to St. Pete. We got vibrant downtown, vibrant neighborhoods. I think we've got the most vibrant downtown in the Southeast right now, and it's really a booming place. It's a good place. But I'm going to tell you what the job of mayor, that's the official job, that's the charter job of mayor. And now I'm going to tell you what I think the job of mayor of a city of St. Petersburg is. And I think it's 3 jobs. It's dealing with the business of the city. It's big business. It's dealing with the crises as they come. And then it's advancing your vision for the city. Those are the 3 jobs that you have as mayor of a city, a big city, as a strong mayor of a city. So the thing is if you get too bogged down in the business, or you get too bogged down by the crises, you never get to do what you were elected to do, and that's to advance a vision. So you got to deal with all of them as you go along. So the crises, or the business. The business of the city. In St. Pete, we happen to have about a $560 million budget. We have 255,000 people in the city, 34 departments. So that's the police department, the fire department, the parks department, recreation department, finance department, budget department, sanitation, water, sewer, all the departments. And things go wrong all the time in those departments. And guess whose fault it is? That's the other side of the strong mayor form of government. Everybody knows who to blame when my trash didn't get picked up today or my water main busted or whatever it was. And so you deal with the business. So how do you do that? I came out of school. I studied business. I studied finance. I studied law. And then I ran a law firm. So I had 35 employees on Tuesday. And I was elected on Tuesday as mayor. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was sworn in Sunday. That was my transition period. And now I had 3,000 employees and 34 departments and parks. I was terrified. I didn't really know how to run a city. Now, I didn't really tell people that in the campaign. I thought it may have dissuaded them if I had said that. But I didn't. I mean, who knows how to run a city until you start running one, you know? And so I didn't know how, but I knew the city well. I had written a book on the history of the city. I had run a business in the city. I had run charities in the city. I had run the chamber in the city. I'd been integrally involved in the city of St. Petersburg. So I became mayor. And I had to start to think, okay, how do I operate this? And we had just changed recently to the strong mayor form of government. And so the transition really hadn't really worked all the way through at that point. And I'll give you an example. I went about 3 months and I kept thinking, I'm not getting any reports. I'm running the city. Shouldn't I get a report? You know, when I ran a law firm on Tuesday, I got something we called the Tuesday report. Very clever. And our firm administrator would go over it with me in the morning on a breakfast. And I know the finances, the receivables, the payables, the caseload, how we were doing, what our clients were doing. I knew everything on Tuesday, the Tuesday report. I'm mayor of a city now, 3,000 employees, $550 million budget. I'm getting no reports. I got 2 reports. I got the crime stats, and I got the rainfall. This is true. This is true. This is true. So I'm thinking, okay, that's a start, you know. And so I started asking, well, shouldn't I get reports? You know, I started asking people that work for me, you know, introduce myself first, so I started a process to get reports. And the way I started was I said, okay, can you tell me what the number one complaint to the mayor's action line is? That's a good thing for the mayor to know, don't you think? I now get these reports at my cabinet meeting every week. But they didn't know, they weren't keeping that. So they went back and studied it. They came back to me, they said, sidewalk repair. I said, sidewalk repair? I just ran a campaign. I thought, you know, crime, that's usually pretty big, and other issues in the city, economic development, sidewalk repair. I said, why sidewalk? I don't know. I said, well, tell me, how long does it take us to fix a sidewalk? So well, we don't know. So we'll go back and find out. So they go back and they study how long it takes. 2.5 years to fix a sidewalk. I said, well, maybe that's why it's the number one complaint to the mayor's action line. So we started out we started fixing sidewalks, but that started a process which we now call the city scorecard. And I would invite any of you to go on stpete.org and look up city scorecard. And SRI has called it the model performance measure for any city in the country today. And what we did is it took me over a year to do this, but we studied to see what other cities did for performance measures. And I studied a lot of them. I didn't really like them. They were long lists of things that were hard to read and understand, and they really didn't make sense. So what we did is we developed a system that was all graph, and it was all the same format of graph. You have 34 departments. Guess what? They all use different programs and different computers. So we got them all consolidated in one program. And some of them like to do 3D graphs. Some like to, no. So we got them all that they were the same. And then I sat down with each department, water department, sewer department, police department, parks department, and I said, okay, give me the top 8 people in the department. Tell me, is the parks department serving the city of St. Pete better this year than they were last year? And guess what? Everyone said yes. That was good. So I said, okay, well, okay, how can I demonstrate to somebody else? If a citizen asks me, is our water department better this year than last year? How can I tell them? How can I demonstrate that? So that started a tremendous discussion of what is important, what is relevant. The city, like all cities, compiles thousands of statistics, and they're all good. The water department, they take tests on the water all the time, and they have statistics on it and all that sort of stuff. Well, but what is it that is relevant to me in running the city? What is it that's relevant to me? And that was the hard part. First of all, to find out what was relevant in running the city, then to gather the information, because we didn't have it put together, and then to put it in a graph form you could understand, then get it onto a computer and get it in a format so everybody can understand it. So you can now go on to our city's website and you can find out how long it takes to respond to a priority 1 police call. That's an important statistic. It was 7.1 minutes when I took office. It's about 6.5 now, 6.6 minutes right now. That's important to know. It's important to look at it from a historical perspective. And by the way, the national standard is 7 minutes. How long does it take us to respond to a fire call? It's about 4.5 minutes. How long does it take to respond to a rescue call? You get a heart attack. That's important. You're waiting for that. That's an important thing for you to know. And so it's important for me to know. It's important for the community to know. You can go on our website and find out today in the computer, wherever you find one here, and find out how long it's taken us right now compared to 10 years ago or 15 or 5 years ago. That's important stuff to know. I can tell you how long it takes to fix a sidewalk. 2 weeks to fix a sidewalk now. And we have no backlog for sidewalks anymore. I can tell you how long it takes to fix a pothole. I can also tell you what our grades are for our public schools in the city and how that compares based on the standardized test scores of the kids and how long that. I could tell you how we're doing improving the infrastructure in the city. We spent a lot of money replacing our sewer pipes, water pipes, upgrading our sewer plants. That's stuff people don't really notice or see. Very important stuff. Very important. If you've got a problem, I promise you, it's a big problem. So we're doing that, and our graphs will show you, based on a 1997 plan to replace the sewer pipe system in the city, how far along we are. And we're doing good. But it'll show you that. It'll tell you how many incidents of graffiti that we have reported in the city and how that compares. So when we get a spike, then we know to do something about it. Or what our crime rates are, our violent crime rates are, what our property crime rates are. This recession, I promise you, city property crime rates have spiked up during the recession. Larcenies and burglaries in homes have spiked up during the recession. So now you can go on, and there are about 160, 170 of those performance measures. You can go online now and know how the city's doing. And I can do it. That's important for me. But we didn't develop 2 systems. I have the same system that everybody else in the city has. So I go on the same website that everybody else does to find the information that we have for the city. And I get reports on it. We do cabinet reports, and we try to respond to it. You're running the business of the city. We've maintained finances are an important part of the city. We've just gone through some horrific financial investment times. I can promise you, cities, counties, states have gone through the same problems that you all with your IRAs. And there have been some very scary times from a financial perspective that I could speak for an hour on. But you have to do that. That's running the business of the city. You have budgets that you have to do. I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe in that. As the revenues were going up during the boom, we were cutting staff, we were cutting tax rates, and we were putting money into reserves. In fact, it's almost comical. There's one of the candidates for mayor now complaining that I put too much money in reserves. I think that's nuts. I mean, you want money in reserves. You want to have a solid financial, so that right now, as we've had 3 bad budgets in a row, first one due to legislative tax reform, the second one due to doubling the homestead, and the third one due to the financial meltdown, we're doing okay. We have not cut. We have 300 fewer employees in the city of St. Pete than when I took office, but we have more police officers than when I took office. And we have much more in reserves, and we have maintained a tight fiscal ship during that period. It's part of running the business of the city, which is an important part. So the infrastructure, the budgets, the finances, it's not exciting stuff, but I tell you, it's your core job, and you better do it well. Your employee issues that you have, just like all your businesses have employee issues, we have lots of employee issues, and so you deal with them. Second job of the city mayor is to deal with the crisis. And the crises come. They come. And it's funny, you don't run for that, but they come. And so you'll have things like a water main bust. We had a 7-foot water main break one day. The head of my water department came into my office at 4 o'clock one afternoon. You know, when somebody rushes into your office at 4 o'clock and they're head of a water department, you got a problem. You know, you kind of know. And she said, we got this problem. We've got a water main busted. Okay, I said, okay, well, what does that mean? You know, well, it's our main supply from the north for all of our water. I said, okay, well, that sounds like a problem. I said, tell me, do we have reserves? Yeah, we have about 5 days worth of reserves. Well, that's good. How long is it going to take to fix the water pipe? 5 days. I said, okay. That's good. I guess we better get started, huh? You know, and she said, well, we got another problem. I said, what's the other problem? She says, well, the county water system has the same source of our water system, and they don't have any reserves, and they want our reserves. I said, oh, well, if I give them our reserves, what happens? She said, well, then we're out of water tomorrow at noon. I said, well, okay, if I don't give them our reserves, what happens? Then they're out of water now. And their hospitals are out of water, and their system backs up, and they get bacteria in the system, and the whole rest of the county, by the way, 1 million people in Pinellas County, whole rest of the county has got a big problem. I said, okay. I said, well, are there other chances of getting water? Well, there are some old wells that we're going to try to see if we can find water in. But we have to get emergency DEP permits tonight to do it. Have you ever gotten a DEP permit before? So I said, okay, this is a problem. This is a legitimate problem. How long do I have to make my decision? She said, 5 minutes. So here you are. If you do it, if you give them the water, and you run out of water the next day, and the other water doesn't come, you've just now put your city out of water, which is my responsibility as my city. And if you don't give them the water, they're out of water immediately, and then if you do get the water, then you let them run out of water for no reason, and they're backed up. So that's a problem. So anyways, those are the kind of problems you have to deal with. Does anybody want to know what I did? Well, I will tell you something that you should know intuitively, because and what you should know intuitively is that it worked out, and the reason that you know that intuitively is because I got reelected. If it didn't work out, I wouldn't be here. Somebody else would be talking to you to that. That's a hard call. That's a very hard call. What I finally concluded after 3.5 minutes of deliberation was that I was going to choose the only option that leaves me with the possibility of nobody running out of water. There was only one option with the possibility that everything would be okay. And then I would just be willing to politically defend it if it didn't work out. And thankfully, I was on the phone at midnight with the secretary of the DEP. We got the permit. They did find water. We got water. We got the water by noon the next day for the temporary wells that we got. And that 5 days to fix the problem, the pipes, turned out to be 2 weeks to fix the pipes. And an interesting side note on that, we had a press conference that night about 9:30. County and us and everybody else, we said, okay, everybody, we're out of water. Don't take showers. Don't flush your toilets. Please conserve water. We got a big problem. And you can always tell, people rally when things like that happen. So over the course of the next 2 days, the water consumption in our area did not drop by a gallon. Everybody decided their neighbor was going to not take a shower. We're going to take a shower, so thankfully we were able to find out. But those are the crises. You get crises. We had a police shooting in 1996 that resulted in 2 days of riots. That was 5 years before I was mayor. Well, the civil litigation for that came due when I was mayor. And so we had attempted disturbances during that litigation and very difficult times to deal with. We have a drive-by shooting of an 8-year-old little girl killed in her house through a drive-by shooting. That's a terrible thing. It's a crisis in the community when it happens. So we had a tanker truck turn over on our interstate downtown, one of the interstate feeders downtown, and burn the whole interstate feeder down in the north end of our downtown one night in the middle of the night. So you have these things, these crises, and you have to deal with them. The couple interesting parts about them is you're dealing with them with a very intense media response. And again, when I became mayor, I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't study any of that. And so you just have to figure out how to deal with it, because Florida's got very broad media, public records, and everything else laws, which are good. And the media literally reads my mail before I do. That's true. So we have a file on the credenza in the reception area. They come in, read my mail. They'll come up to me and say, Mayor, what do you think about that letter you got from so-and-so? I said, what letter? I haven't seen it yet. They said, well, here it is. Here, you want to look at it? And so you do that, and the crises are no different. By the time, because of how quick everything is with the internet and blogs and online reporting and everything else, then everything is like that. And so quite often, I will find out about the crisis the same time everybody else does. And so the media is there ready for me to comment and how I'm going to respond. And I found out about it 3 seconds ago, and deal with it. So you have to learn how to deal with it and deal with the crises as they come. But you do. It's like everything else. You figure it out. And so you deal with the business of the city. You deal with the crises as they come. And you have to deal with them, or you can't do the thing you ran on, and that's to advance your vision. I ran on a vision. I ran on, we called it the Baker Plan. That's clever, right? And it was 4 points. It was neighborhoods, improving our neighborhoods, supporting our neighborhoods. It was improving public safety in the city, which is always important. Supporting the public schools in the city of St. Pete. That's not the job of the city, but we have a major part of what we do is supporting the public schools and promoting economic development in the city. Citywide, but with a special emphasis on downtown and what we call Midtown. We now call Midtown, which is our most economically depressed part of our city. So those were our 4 points, and that's what we set out to do. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions, and what we did to advance those 4 points. Neighborhoods. I believe that the number one job of the mayor of a city, or anybody that works for a city, is to advance the quality of life of the city. Very simple. My job is to try to make it better for the people that live in my city every day. And that can mean anything. That can mean a lot of different things. But that's my job. So when it comes to neighborhoods, how do we continue to improve the neighborhoods and the environment of the neighborhoods in the city? So we have a very delineated program to do that. We have 110 formed neighborhood associations in our city. We have a neighborhood department. I have a deputy mayor for neighborhoods that we interact with them. They do neighborhood plans, and they sometimes do signage. They may want to do something in the park or a public safety issue or whatever. We're working with them. I meet with the neighborhood presidents in my office about every 2 or 3 weeks. I'll meet with 6 to 8 neighborhood presidents in my office for breakfast. We spend 3 hours going over what's going on in their neighborhood. So I'm always on top of what's going on in the neighborhoods of our city. And we can react. And usually I have somebody from the police department or somebody from the neighborhood department or other staff in the office so we can react to whatever the issues they have to continue the neighborhoods advancing, the crime watches, everything else you've got going along with it. Beyond that, we've tried to do things for the city as a whole to try to continually improve the quality of life. Now, what does that mean? Well, it can mean dog parks. Do y'all have dog parks here? I love dog parks. You know, we had no dog parks when I took office, and we decided to try to do dog parks. And the first dog park we did, or first or second, we had just done a library, groundbreaking, $3 million library. I love libraries. We've done a lot of libraries. And we did a $3 million library groundbreaking. And we had about 15, 20 people from the neighborhood there. It was a real nice event. $3 million. Next day, we cut the ribbon on a new dog park that cost $9,000. We had 200 people come to that. and thousands of dog legs, and it was just jammed. And within weeks, they had worn out all the grass in the dog park, and the neighborhood was saying, please build more dog parks. Somewhere else, get these folks out of my neighborhood. So, I had just gotten into office at the time, and I'm thinking, okay, they're cheap, everybody loves them, I want to get reelected, we're going to build a lot of dog parks. And so we got dog parks all over the city now, but it's a quality of life. And you know something about a dog park? If you go to a regular park, and there are a group of people standing around talking, if you walk up to them and you say, hi, I'm Rick, how you doing? They're going to look at you like, who is this guy? But if you go to a dog park and you walk up to the same group and you say, which is your dog? You're best friends all of a sudden. You know, they're talking about their dog and what their dog does and your dog does and the other dog does. And it's amazing. I mean, it really is. It becomes a crime watch program. It becomes everything else because people are out at the dog park. I promise you, the dog parks, I'm not going to talk about dog parks for the rest of the night, but I like dog parks. The dog parks are the most used park on a per square foot by people in the city. No, there's no doubt about it. It's amazing. Build dog parks. I love dog parks. Skateboard parks. We build skateboard parks around the city because there are kids. We have great rec centers in the city. We've built a lot of new ones and we've expanded the ones that we had. We use by the way, most of this recreation stuff, we have a penny sales tax that we passed in Pinellas County. We get a big chunk of it. We get about $22 million a year for capital improvements. And we put them into rec centers and that sort of things. And we don't put them, some people put them into big things like stadiums and stuff. We do. We put them into fire stations and dog parks and skateboard parks and libraries and recreation centers and things that people really, I think, feel. And I think that's important. So we did build skateboard parks. There are a lot of kids in all of our rec programs. They're not football kids. They're not basketball kids, but they like to rollerblade and they like the other things. So we do that for them, and they have something there. We built bike paths. I love bike paths. We're building the largest bicycle path system in the southeast United States in St. Petersburg. We've got it already down all the way to downtown, comes right to the waterfront, goes all the way up to Tarpon Springs. We have 4 trunk lines of trails emanating from downtown St. Petersburg. And we have bike lanes going all over. And I was talking to earlier, and they said, well, but Pensacola couldn't do that because you're already built out. We've been built out for 40 years in St. Petersburg. But we started out with a 2-year plan, cost a little money, and we did a plan to develop the city with bicycle paths and sidewalks and that sort of thing. And you have to plan it because sometimes, for instance, you have to give up a car lane in order to get a bike path. And you don't want to do that unless you know what the capacity of that road is and what the activity level of the road is, so you don't mess up your vehicular traffic while you're doing bike paths. But it can be done, and we're doing it all over the city. I think bike paths are a good thing. Playgrounds. I love playgrounds too. Playgrounds are, my kids were 4 and 5 when I became mayor. I think that was great because I see everything through kids, you know. And I walked my kids to a playground down the street. It's about 5 blocks from my house. And one day I was walking, I said, you know, everybody should be able to do this. I think if you can walk to a playground, then talk to your neighbors and play with the kids, then you feel differently about your neighborhood. And somehow, if you don't have to get in the car, you feel differently. I don't know why that is, but I think it's true. And so we set up a plan. I set a goal 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, to build a playground within a 1/2 mile walk of every child in the city of St. Petersburg. Every child. And of course, I keep statistics. So we've gone from like 42% by the end of this year. We'll be at 80% of the city. We will have reached that goal. And we put them in parks if the neighborhood says it's okay, because it takes up a little bit of the park. But we've also put them at 6 or 7 elementary schools. And boy, that was hard to start. But we went to our public schools and we said, you have not so nice playgrounds. We build great playgrounds. We'll build you a great playground at your elementary school if you'll open it up after school and let the neighborhood use it. And so now we have about 7, maybe more, playgrounds at elementary schools around the city where they're closed off from the public during the day and they're closed off from the school at night and on weekends so the neighborhood can use the playgrounds. We've built them at churches. And the churches will let the neighborhood use the playground as part of it, and you could do that. So because we were built out, so we don't have land to do it, so we found places to co-locate. So now, kids all over the city. We also set a goal of building the largest playground in Florida. So we have a lake called Lake Maggiore, and we just kept building and building and building this playground. And it's got like 10, 15 pavilions around the lake for picnics and birthday parties. And then we built these water features at it, which are really cool. And what we did is I actually picked out the playground equipment myself. So we would say I would go through all these magazines, and we'd say, okay, find stuff that's nowhere else in the city. So we have these big rope ladders that come up like this that are there, and climbing walls, and we have the water features and everything else. So we just built this huge playground because people like it. It's a quality of life thing for people to be able to enjoy. So we're doing that sort of stuff. We're a green city. Florida Green Building Coalition allows you to go through and do a series of 200 items like a LEED certification for buildings for cities. And we went through the process. We became the first designated green city in the state of Florida. I could talk at length about all of our biofuel programs and our tree planting. I've planted 20,000 trees in the city since I've been mayor. 6,000 flowering trees. We started a flowering tree programs, and so some of the royal poinsettias and the yellow poinsettias and the jacarandas and the magnolias and all that. You know, you don't see them all right now, but in 5 years it's going to be nuts with the colors of the city. So it's part of the quality of life, making your neighborhoods better. The green programs are part of it. All of it is tied together. So neighborhoods, that's one. Schools. So, as I said before, in Florida, cities aren't responsible for schools, but that does not mean we shouldn't be involved in schools. When I ran for mayor in 2001, I said schools were going to be one of my planks, and a lot of people said that's not what the mayor is supposed to do. And my response was, if we don't have good public schools, people aren't going to move into our neighborhoods, and people aren't going to bring their businesses to our community. So the mayor better be involved in the public school. So we've started a series of school programs, school support programs, that the National League of Cities, I think, will tell you, is probably the most advanced public school support program in the country for cities that do not run the schools. Chicago runs their schools. But we have done things like the Doorways program, Doorways Scholarship program. Doorways Scholarship tells a child in a free and reduced lunch program that if you maintain, it tells them in 6th grade. So I go to a 6th grader in a free and reduced lunch program. And by the way, most free and reduced lunch kids, the graduation rates are not very strong. If you get to 45, 50, 55%, they don't keep good statistics on it, but they're not. And you tell a 6th grader in a free and reduced lunch program that if they do certain things, if they maintain a C average from 6th to 12th grade, if their attendance is good, their conduct is good, they are drug-free and crime-free when they get to 12th grade, they get a 4-year college scholarship. That is an incredible incentive for a kid to stay good, okay? I started raising all private money, by the way, all the school programs are funded with private money. All private money from corporations, businesses, and others. Started raising private money for the Doorway Scholarship Program. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to have given out 1,000 Doorway Scholarships to kids in free and reduced lunch. Now let me tell you about these kids. We now have statistics from my first 2 years, because they went 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, right? Twice. 93% graduated from high school. That is a remarkable statistic. It is. Does that make a difference in the schools? It's not running the schools. I don't want to run the schools, but it makes a difference. We have a Top Apple, Mayor's Top Apple Awards. The Mayor's Top Apple, we just invent stuff. It's just kind of fun. I like being mayor. The Mayor's Top Apple Awards, you know how we grade our schools now. I know it's controversial. I believe in it. I believe in the standardized testing. I believe in grading how we're doing with improving the kids' scores. I believe in that. Maybe the test should be changed, not perfect, but we need to be doing it. We need to be seeing how we're doing. So, in order to support that, I have water here. Excuse me. We started the Mayor's Top Apple Award. So the Mayor's Top Apple, if you want, you become a Mayor's Top Apple school if your school either improves the letter grade, goes from D to C, C to B, B to A, or maintains an A. You're now a Mayor's Top Apple school. So we bring the principal and the assistant principal into the school. Guess what? You know, the Gates Foundation will tell you that the best indicator for school success is leadership. What do we do for the leadership? What do we do for the leaders of the successful schools in our public schools? What do we do? What do we do? So we do something. So we bring them in. We bring the principals in, and we bring the assistant principals in. And we have the award ceremony. And it's a city council meeting. We have all the principals, assistant principals, the corporate partners, the superintendent of schools, the school board, the legislative delegation, the city council, I'm there, and we give out these awards. So the principal of the Top Apple school, first of all, gets recognition, of course, on TV, and that's a nice thing. And they get a little marble apple that has their name on it, and they get a banner. It's like 8 feet high. That's like an NCAA Final Four banner. It says Mayor's 2007 Top Apple Award. And they put it in their cafeterias. A lot of them just hang it in the front of their schools. They're so proud of it. They got this banner for the school. For the principal, we also give them a dinner, reception dinner, which is a nice thing. We give them a basket of gift cards and season passes to American Stage, which is a playhouse in town. They get dinner for two at the Columbia restaurant downtown, which is a nice thing for them. They get a weekend at the Tradewind Resort on St. Pete Beach, which is a nice thing. And they get a $2,500 bonus. And we hand it to the principals. And the assistant principals get a $1,000 bonus. Do you think that helps us keep principals in St. Pete schools? It's tough to keep principals, assistant principals, and teachers in the urban schools. It's easier in the suburbs. It just is. It just is. So if you want to keep them, if you want to recruit them, you should incentivize them. It's kind of basic, you know. And so we do that. For the teachers, we have the Teacher A+ loan program. So if you're a teacher in a public school in St. Pete, we use state housing money. By the way, none of this is city money. We use state housing money, and we will give a teacher a $20,000 loan to use as a down payment to buy a house in the city of St. Pete. And that loan is 0 interest. And if the teacher teaches in the city for 10 years, he or she never has to pay the loan back. It becomes a $20,000 gift to that teacher. We've closed over 80 of those loans so far. And do you think that helps us recruit teachers into the city and retain teachers in the city for the group? They're doing a lot of heavy lifting, and some of this, it's tough sometimes. So we've got lots of other programs, and I could go through a whole list. We're working with SRI and an advanced math program for our schools. We partner with our school. When we have security problems at some of our high schools, I got together with all the principals of the schools. We work on developing a uniform monitoring system to go along with our on-site police officers. We have before care, after care at all of our schools. City runs before care, after care. Lots going on with the schools. Since 2001, I've lost the statistic now. But in 2001, we have 27 elementary schools. We have 46 schools. 27 elementary schools. We had 0 A elementary schools in 2001 in St. Pete. Today we have 16 A elementary schools out of 27. And the number of A and B schools in the city has increased by 260% in that period of time. Now, I don't take credit for it. It's everybody working at it. It's the teachers, it's the principals. But what it is we have a team. We have a team that's working together to make the schools better. I will tell you the biggest challenge we have today is high schools. And that's not just in St. Pete, it's all over the country. But we'll focus on that as well. But our elementaries, our middle schools have made great progress. We still have work in the high schools. Schools are important, bottom line. And even though you don't run the schools, you should, I think my job is to be involved in schools. Public safety, number one job of the city is public safety. And if crime rates we used to have, our average number of murders, as an example, is probably 25 a year for the last 30 years. This year, today, I just got a call, we had our 9th murder in the city of St. Pete. Well, that's way down, that's 50%. But that doesn't matter to the people that are the victims of the crime now. If you have one murder, if you have one violent crime, if you have one crime at all, you have, to the person that's the victim, that's 100% crime rate. So until your crime is at zero, you have to continually push and push and push to try to make it better. Whether it's your policing effort, whether it's your programs you're dealing with kids and trying to get kids going the right direction, whether it's your recreation center programs, whether it's your community policing program, whether we have a gun bounty program where if we did it after that, the 8-year-old was shot, where I announced a gun bounty that if anybody gives us information leading to the arrest of somebody and confiscation of a weapon that was used in a crime, we give them money. We've raised private money for this, and we've used forfeiture funds for it. I actually got hate mail from as far away as Utah for doing that. But I think, I will tell you, you always have to look for ways to make the city safer. That's your number one job. Hurricanes. That's a big, 2004. They're always, we had, you guys I know had it up here. We had 4 hurricanes that at one point were targeted to go through St. Petersburg. Hurricane Charlie was supposed to hit right through my backyard, and it was 3 hours before it hit. We had evacuated 250,000 people. It turned and went to Port Charlotte, right 3 hours before it hit. So you have to deal with the hurricanes. You have to deal with Homeland Security. We have a Homeland Security task force in the city of St. Pete. We have evaluated the hardening of all of our facilities. Public safety is an important job, very important job. Okay, I'll be quick. Economic development. 4th point, downtown St. Pete has been on a 30-year effort to redevelop its downtown, and it has worked. It has lots of components to it. Part of the component is that we have 4 miles of waterfront park. And the 4 miles of waterfront park, we schedule for events. They are our gathering places. Communities have to have gathering places. We have one park where we will have 25,000 people come to concerts 3 nights in a row for Rib Fest or Blues Fest or Snow Fest or this fest or that fest. It's just festivals constantly coming. We have a Grand Prix race. Brings 150,000 people. IndyCar races in downtown St. Petersburg. Every April that brings it. But all of our park system is one of the keys, waterfront park system, one of the keys to what we've done in St. Petersburg. Cultural. 8 years ago, I claimed we were the cultural center of Florida. And I don't know if we were or not, but I claimed it. And since then, we've expanded museums, we've recruited more museums, galleries, performing arts companies. We've rebuilt our theater. Shahuli is now building his only museum in downtown St. Petersburg. The Florida Orchestra's moved their headquarters to downtown. I think we are now. It's worked. So but culture is a big piece of what we are trying to do in redeveloping downtown. Of course, businesses, hotels, everything. You try to do everything. We have movie theater. We have 20 movie theaters downtown. Everything you try to do all at once. We now have, when I first moved to St. Pete in the early 80s, you had to go out of the downtown to go to a restaurant. Our last count, we have about 120 restaurants within the feeders downtown. It's just, and we have Beach Drive, which has become just an incredible place of sidewalk cafes overlooking the park and the water, and horse and buggy carriages going by, and now we have mounted police, and it just is a vibrant. Downtown's cool. Downtown's doing well. Baseball helps too. We have a baseball team, and last year we had a winning baseball team. It worked out pretty well. The Rays went to the World Series. I take complete credit for that. Other than the Philadelphia game, I didn't do anything. I had nothing to do with that. But the Rays, of course, the Rays, the Grand Prix, all the activities that we do are very important to the vibrancy of downtown. I think one of the most significant things we've done in the last 8 years, in my opinion, has been the redevelopment of Midtown St. Petersburg. Midtown St. Petersburg is the most economically depressed part, historically, has been the most economically depressed part of the city. Probably 90% African American, very low income part of our city. Had really, if you were to ask them when I took office, considered themselves to have been ignored for a long time. And I made redevelopment of that part of our city the primary focus of my first 5 years of office. And we brought in corporate partners, and we brought in federal help, and we brought in state help, and we've rebuilt the old Mercy Hospital. It was the black hospital during segregation, had been closed for 35 years on a vacant 5-acre site. It was terrible. It's now a beautiful new clinic. Got a $4 million grant from the federal government. It's the Johnny Ruth Clark Health Center at Mercy Hospital. The old Royal Theater, which was one of 2 African American theaters during segregation, closed as a theater when we had desegregation in the 60s. We reopened it. We got grant. Jeb Bush got us some grant from his Front Porch program. We used some CDBG money. We rebuilt it as a performing arts center run by the Boys and Girls Club, and it's unbelievably active. Thousands of kids going through all the time. We got St. Petersburg College. We convinced them to open up a campus in the heart of Midtown St. Petersburg. We actually got a grocery store, a major chain Sweet Bay grocery store in the heart of the city, of Midtown St. Petersburg. I can't tell you how hard that was. We have a bank under construction, first bank ever in the heart. It's taken me 8 years to get to this point. They're working 7 days a week because I'm leaving office in January. They want me to be able to put the first deposit down before I leave office. But this is true, to have that in downtown. A post office. We went years without, there was a post office exchange center in Midtown, but you couldn't buy stamps. There was no retail service. Only one of 8 in the city that was like that. When I took office, I met with the post office. I said, people think you're prejudiced. You should open this for retail. And they didn't have the capital money to do it. And then I said, okay, I'll pay for the improvements. I'll put the counters in. Then they didn't have the operating money to do it. And so we went, so then I went to the head of the state post office, and he said no. And then we went to the head in Memphis, Tennessee, of the Southeast United States for the post office. And he said no. I said, well, how much would it cost? Can you tell me that? No, we're not going to do it, but it would cost $250,000 because you'd have to build it outright. So then I went to Jeb when he was governor, and I showed him pictures. People had to go and ring it. If they got a certified mail at their house, they rang a doorbell, they would slide open a window. You give it, they'd give you the certified mail, and they'd say, well, can I buy stamps? Nope. And so I took pictures of the people doing that, and I showed them to Jeb. And he said, oh, Rick, he said, this will be easy. I'd been working on this for 3 years. I said, well, easy for you. My brother is not president of the United States, So, I wound up in the intergovernmental office of the White House, at the White House, meeting with the intergovernmental office of the President of the United States to get stamps sold in Midtown St. Petersburg. And by the way, we got a post office now. And I say that because I'm going to conclude, finally, and then open up for questions with why we got that post office. And it's because we decided. I think there is immense power in deciding. We decided in Midtown St. Petersburg that we were going to make it a seamless city. What does that mean? A seamless city means if you're going from one part of the city and you cross a railroad track or under an interstate or through a major freeway, you don't all of a sudden land at a place you don't want to be. A place where you feel you got to reach over and lock your door. Or a place that doesn't have a grocery store or a bank or a post office. Or a place that kids are afraid to play out in their front yard. Or a place that has drug dealers going on in the corner. no city, no child in any city should have to live in that kind of environment. And so your objective should always be to make it a seamless city. And that's what we have set out to do in St. Petersburg. And we started out by deciding. And when you decide, you don't decide that you're going to try. If I ask an employee, somebody who works for me, would you do this for me? They say, oh, I'll try. They're not going to do it. Or oh, I'll do my best. They're not going to do it. I want them to say, I'll do it. And then if they have a problem, they can come back to me and tell me what the problem is and let me decide what the obstacle is and whether we can get past it. But you have to decide you're going to do it. And I like to use the post office as the story, because if you're willing to go to the President of the United States to get stamps sold in a depressed part of your city, you've decided you're going to be seamless. And you've decided nothing's going to get in your way on the way to getting that done. And I believe that's where we are in St. Petersburg. Now, are we completely seamless? No. Do we have challenges? Yep. Will the next mayor still have plenty to do? Yep. There's still plenty of work to be done. But we've come a long way on the journey to becoming a seamless city. Thank you for having me today. I tried to talk longer than I was supposed to, so there wouldn't be many questions, but we'll see if it works. Who's got questions? Here's one, and then there's one in the back.
I want to know, what do you do about Christmas decorations and fireworks? Well,
I've got like a blow-up Frosty that I put right in front of my porch, and I put lights on the top of my house. Were you thinking about city decorations? Oh, city decorations. Oh.
What do you do about city lights and fireworks?
Okay. Yeah. First of all, let me start out with your premise. People are homeless and hungry, so why do you do dog parks? Why do you do skateboard parks? Why do you do playgrounds? You have to help people that are homeless and hungry. And we have built, and I've helped do it, something called Pinellas Hope, which is one of the most advanced homeless, I call it a triage centers you'll see. The President's Homeless Interagency Task Force has come and seen it twice. And to call it one of the models for the country, we have 400 people that are being helped through that, and we've developed it over the course of the past couple of years. We have lots of centers. We still have homeless. We still have people hungry. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to do other things. And I do have lights. I got lots of lights. I love lights. We got lights in our waterfront park. We have decorations in our waterfront park. We have decorations on Central Avenue for it. We have fireworks on the 4th of July. We have fireworks on service. I try to get a lot of private money to donate things whenever I can, but we do the lights. Mm-hmm. One in the back.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much for being here. I've been to a few of the IMHC meetings, and this is definitely one of the best. And Mr. Ford, thank you for having Mr. Baker in. First of all, your tenure ends in January. How much would it take to get you here? We have a referendum. We have a referendum coming up in a few months. I think strong mayor looks a lot more attractive with you coming in. Anyway, in all seriousness,
There was a picture when I took office. When you become mayor, you get a lot of cartoons in the paper, especially when you look like me, you know. And this one was, they had a, you know, like the picture of the big strong man in the circus, you know, and you could take your head behind the picture, and so they take a photo of it. You know what I'm talking about? Well, they had a drawing of me standing above it like this, and they had me really skinny by the strong, and it said strong mayor, and it said, and the headline was, could you scrunch down a little, mayor, or something like that. So.
We, as a community here, have, in the last few weeks, have had two big momentum setbacks, I guess you could say, with the Maritime Park that we have had planned for quite a while, and then Southwest Airlines yesterday that went to Panama City. Momentum in a community is a very real thing. what would you say was the turning point, the defining point? Was it when the strong mayor, when that form of government was installed? What would you say was the real turning point for St. Pete, looking back?
You know, I've been mayor almost 9 years now, and people have been coming up to me all along saying, boy, look what you've done for the city, you know. And I always say, yeah, St. Petersburg's a 30-year overnight success. And I believe that. It's hard to do the calculus of how much the strong mayor form impacted it or not. And I'll talk about strong mayor form. But the message I would give is, St. Pete could write the book about setbacks. You know, we built a baseball stadium and didn't have a baseball team, and we went through probably 8-10 years and 5 different efforts. We were supposed to get the San Francisco Giants, and we were supposed to get the Chicago White Sox, and we were supposed to get Seattle, and then we went through the first expansion draft and lost it, and then finally we got one in the second, and then we took 10 years to have a winning season after that. And all that goes along with that, and the money and the cost, and split the city right in half. We had a series of mayoral races that were 51-49. The strong mayor form of government, when it passed, by the way, really came as a result of a controversy over the firing of a police chief in issues that were racially related. And it was unbelievably controversial. I was against the chief, and I actually ran the campaign for the mayor, who was the mayor at the time. And the police chief, after he got fired, relating to racial issues, decided to run for mayor. Imagine that race. And he's the one that he supported putting the strong mayor form of government on the ballot. And he was doing it so he could become the strong mayor. And I was running the campaign against him. And the fellow that ran against him wound up winning. And I think the ballot was 50.5%. And we had multiple recounts and lawsuits over that election. And the strong mayor form of government passed by, I think, about 51%. So the fellow that was pushing for the strong mayor form of government lost the race. The guy who was against the strong mayor form of government became the strong mayor. And he was actually reelected because he was council manager form of government, and then he went into it. So you can imagine what you go through at a time like this. So it's I guess I say that to say that, you know, city building has a lot of bumps along the way, and you got to just keep doing it. Tenacity is the most important thing. Whatever form of government you have, tenacity of the community, because it's not one person that does it. It's the community tenacity that sticks with it. Now, strong mayor. So just because somebody will ask a question, strong mayor versus not strong mayor. I was on the Charter Review Commission that back in the 90s that was considering whether to go with a strong mayor form of government. I actually did not support it. I supported the council manager form of government back then. Now, had that been the form of government, I would never have run for mayor, because I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have. I wouldn't have done it. And now, having said that does that mean the strong mayor is the best form of government? I think it just depends. What the strong mayor form of government means is that the person. It's very important who you pick as mayor. Because if there's an election right now going on, I'm for one of the candidates and not for the other. If the not other one gets in, well, I'm concerned. So it matters an awful lot who your mayor is in the strong mayor, because there's a lot that goes with it. They're running the city, very influential on the direction, and so. If you got a good person, it's the best form of government. It is, because you could do things you could never do, I think, with it. If you get the wrong person, you get a problem. So that's I know people on both sides are wishing I had said something else, but that's the reality of it. It just makes it very important. Yeah.
You talked about your response time at the beginning of the presentation. What's your response time if a resident doesn't pay their property tax when it's due?
Well, we don't collect property taxes. The tax collector collects property taxes.
Anyway, you have an
I don't keep track of that, but
you have an MBA, and how did that contribute to your running, turning the city around, and helping you in managing the city?
I think it helped a lot. I have my MBA, but I really learned more about finance when I was running a small business, which is when you normally learn most of your things. And I tell people I got an MBA from Florida State, but I got a PhD the first time I had to make payroll and I didn't have any money in the bank. You know, and if for any of you that have been in a small business, you know exactly that moment when that happened. And so understanding budgets and finance has been very helpful. I will tell you something though. For those of you that are not in the public sector, it's a whole different world. Fund-based accounting, fund balance accounting, it took me 3-4 years to really get my arms around it. It's just not intuitive like private accounting is that we're more used to. But it's very important to be able to follow the numbers. It is. Yes.
What is your role with or your relationship with the St. Pete Young Professionals, and what does St. Pete do to attract and retain young talent?
You mean the group? We have a group called St. Pete Young Professionals. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Oh, they come and talk to me. They come like this. They come into my office and we talk and chat and I get input from them and they give input from me and what's going on. I think the best thing you can do to attract young professionals is make it a cool city. I think that's the best thing you could do. When you build bike paths, they love bike paths. When you build the dog parks, the skateboard parks, when you're bringing concerts into the downtown waterfront all the time, when you bring a Grand Prix race into the city and have them race right through downtown and tear apart the downtown for 4 or 5 days, all that, which I love. I'm from Indiana. I love cars. But I think the best thing you could do to attract not just young professionals, you have to attract the businesses that attract the young professionals. And by the way, I'm very active in recruitment of businesses, very active. Actually, I get criticized by our newspaper a lot for it because I'm okay with tax incentive programs as long as they have appropriate payback times for the city and that sort of thing to try to attract businesses in. We brought SRI, the old Stanford Research Institute, into St. Pete. Their ribbon cuttings in a couple of weeks. Draper Labs out of MIT is now in St. Petersburg, and we're working on Research Triangle for the same reason, to bring them into St. Pete. We've brought a lot of businesses into the city. That is the first thing you need to do to get young professionals. But truthfully, I think the biggest thing that I try to do to try, I always say I'm on TV. Should I tell the story? One time I was trying to attract a business that had 1,000 employees, and they were thinking about locating either in St. Pete or in another state. I won't say what state it is, but it was near here. And they went through the incentive package, and I had really kind of a not really big incentive package to offer because it just didn't have it. This other state, the city had a big incentive financial package that they were going to offer. And so they're at the table and they're about to decide, and the CEO is talking to me about it. And he says, this is what they're offering us. You're only offering this? I said, no. I said, that's all I got. I wish I could help you more. That's all I got. I said, but let me ask you this. Are you going to live where the business is? He said, yeah. I said, well, tell me about your kids. He told me about his kids. I said, well, do you want your kids to grow up in St. Petersburg, where we have playgrounds within a half-mile walk of every child, and we have beaches down the street, and we have concerts and the Saturday morning farmers market every Sunday, and we have we have culture, and we have museums, we have 2 colleges downtown, and we have this? Or do you want them to grow up in and I named the state. And I used to do M&A work, merger and acquisition work, and so you could kind of read people. And I could, the look at his face, it was over. I could just see from the look at his face. And they are now in St. Petersburg, 1,000 employees. And I think the most reason was because of this quality of life that we built. I think that's the same thing that brings young professionals in. Yeah.
There's a growing number of people trained professionally in government administration. Where does someone like that fit into your administration?
I mean, they would, anybody who, well, let me just start up. When we changed the form of government, and the mayor before, he kind of did it in between, the council manager forms of government tend, I think, to be more professional management oriented. I think that's true. And because you have a professional city manager, and he's going to, or she is going to pick professional people that have trained in public administration stuff, and that's I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. When the other fellow changed over, he never really changed anything. And then when I took office, well, I had run his 3 campaigns, so I agreed with him. So I didn't change anything either at first. And so what I did, I just evaluated the people where I didn't come and sweep the top level of government off and change it. And so the result is I've made changes here and there, but I would say most of the people working in the city have some degree of professional degrees in public administration or otherwise. Another way of putting that is one of the worries and risks of the strong mayor form of government is that they'll bring in their friends to run the water department and things like that, and that's a risk. There are cities that happens, but I've not done that in St. Pete. So, any of those over? Yeah, go ahead. Oh.
Yeah. We met earlier, and I appreciate you coming in, Mayor Baker. In fact, I wanted to say thank you very much because as chairman of the Charter Review Commission, during our 21-month review, we did rely upon St. Pete's charter significantly, and you and your staff were very available to us to answer questions as we had them. So I want to say thank you from the citizens of Pensacola,
sure,
because you were very much involved in it. What we actually are recommending in our charter is a mayor-council form of government, but something of a hybrid, and that is mandating a CAO. So you talk about having that professional manager. Have you ever looked at or considered the possibility of the mayor-council form of government with a CAO mandated, in essence, the chief of staff being a professional manager?
Ours is, we actually have, when they changed the form of government in St. Pete, they actually just went through, because it was a citizen petition, and they just scratched through everywhere it said city manager and wrote mayor. And it wound up being a real weird charter for a while. And it got changed later on. But one of the things the charter does provide for is a city administrator appointed by the mayor and approved by council. There are 3 positions that have to be approved by council: city administrator, the lawyer, the general counsel for the city, and the city clerk. But the charter doesn't provide for what the city administrator does. So you could have one or not have one, and it really, I'm not sure that it matters that much. I've not considered that. I'm real hesitant to tell other people how they should do their charters. I personally think if you decide to go with a strong mayor form of government, it should be a strong mayor form of government, and the mayor ought to run the city, and the mayor will hire. I mean, I really, without the top level of management in our city, I'd be in trouble. And we have very competent people, and you need to pick that, but that's what, you just need to pick them. Yes.
First of all, I want to say that I hope everything you said about St. Petersburg is true, because I'm going there for my birthday.
While you're there, if you'd like me to show you houses,
Okay.
I do that. I do that for people.
Okay, now the questions.
Yeah.
How important do you think public libraries are for all these seamless cities, as you call them? Are they at least as important as the dog parks? And then the second question, there is one more. What's the relationship of a strong mayor with the county commissioners? Do they listen to you?
Do they listen to me? That's a longer answer. Are the libraries at least as important as the dog parks? There's not a good answer to that question. Either way, you go either way. Well, let me just put it this way. I have built 3 new libraries since I've been mayor. I've rebuilt the main library, which is going to be the ribbon cutting. That's the 4th one within the next 2 weeks. I've expanded a 5th library to provide more computer access, and then there's a 6th library. I haven't done that much with it, but I think that libraries are part of the gathering place for the city. I'll give you one thing. I also believe in partnerships. St. Petersburg College has a big campus on the west side of town, and I entered into a partnership with them to build a new library. It's a 50,000 square foot library. It's the largest library. It's bigger than the main library in the city. And it was a $11 million library. I put $2 million of city money in it. The college put $2 million into it. And we got the rest in grants. And we have 17 times the number of computers we had in our old small library on the west side. And we have a children's area within the library that's larger than the entire old library was on the west side of town. So I believe in them. I also believe in coffee. And I believe libraries should have coffee shops. I believe libraries should have CDs you can check out and DVDs, and that computers ought to be everywhere in libraries. Because if you go into a library now, you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody reading a book. They're on computers like crazy, and that's good. You need the books too. But they're a great access. They're an equalizer for people that don't have access to computers. So you have to have lots and lots of computers in libraries, and I'm serious about the coffee. When we built the West Side, I was negotiating with the librarians on whether or not I wanted a coffee shop in it. And they said, no, you can't put coffee in a library because they'll spill it on the books and it'll ruin the books, And I thought for a second, and I'm meeting with them, I said, well, let me ask you, do we let people check out our books? and they said, yeah. I said, well, do you think they ever go home and put a pot of coffee on and sit at the kitchen table and read a book? Well, yeah, they probably do. I said, well, do we get a lot of coffee stains in the books when they come back? No, he does. That was the end of that discussion. They were so I succeeded in getting coffee, but I want you to know, just to show that the mayor's got limits in power, they still make you put the tops with the little slit on the coffee, which I hate drinking that way, but they make, even me, they make me do that. But the answer is I think libraries are important, yes.
So you've been talking about the libraries. You also have one of the world's famous museums, the Salvador Dali Museum. Tell me how you got that there in St. Petersburg.
The Salvador Dali Museum, I'll tell you how we got it, and then we got some great current news for it too. Salvador Dali Museum in about 1980, which I didn't even live in St. Pete at the time, but I'll take credit for it. You learn you're going to get blamed for the bad, take credit for the good. In 1980, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about a fellow in Cleveland, Mr. Morris, that had this incredible collection of Salvador Dali artwork that he was trying to give to a museum in Cleveland, and they didn't want it.
Oh my goodness.
And so he couldn't. So a lawyer in St. Pete read the article and got together with the state legislator and some of the city manager at the time, and they put together a deal to go and lure them to come. They actually went into an old building on the waterfront that the state gave them some money to renovate, And the city gave them, actually the state bought the land, or the city gave them the land. They got some money to renovate anyways, they put it in. And it's been there ever since. Well, we just completed a deal that was very complicated to move the Salvador Dali Museum right across from our new theater on the waterfront next to our two new waterfront parks. We just built 2 new waterfront parks. And it's about a $30 million museum project that is just stunning. And it is about halfway constructed right now. So it is a great jewel. But we also, the Museum of Fine Arts, we have Monet's, we have an incredible Museum of Fine Arts, our History Museum, our Holocaust Museum downtown, our Children's Science Museum downtown. We're about to get the new Chihuly Museum within the next 6 months downtown. So it's a lot going on in the cultural area. But clearly, the Dali Museum is not just the best museum in St. Pete, it's one of the finest in the Southeast United States.
On that note, let's thank our speaker.
Thank you.